Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webcast, Create the Culture of Your Dreams, Part 2. We have a little bit of housekeeping before we dive in. If you missed Part 1, go ahead and visit our channel on Bright Talk after our webinar today and click on the Live and Recorded tab to access the playback. Everybody will receive a copy of the slides from today along with some additional neuroscience-based goodies, whatever Christine promises. If at any time you have questions or need assistance, you can contact us directly at ops@smarttribesinstitute.com or call 415-320-5680. In addition, I'd really like to remind you all that there's a questions tab, and we'd love for you to submit questions as we're going along, and we'll do our best to answer them during the presentation. My name is Janet, and I'm a leadership and growth coach with Smart Tribes Institute, and I'll be moderating today. I've had the pleasure of working with Christine for several years, and she'll be leading the conversation and the discussion today. So what you're going to be learning are practical concepts that you can start using today to make a difference with your business and in your day-to-day life. So I'm really excited to tell you a little bit about Christine Comerford. Bill Gates has called her super high bandwidth. Bill Clinton thanked her for fostering American entrepreneurship. She's the author of New York Times bestseller Smart Tribes, How Teams Become Brilliant Together. She's a neuroscience-based growth coach and founder of Smart Tribes Institute. For over 30 years, Christine's focus has been helping leaders and companies navigate growth and change by using neuroscience-based techniques and tools, some of which she'll be sharing with us today. You can find more information about Smart Tribes Institute by visiting www.smarttribesinstitute.com. For today's webcast, please use the question panel and type in questions, comments, and your responses to questions asked. We really want your feedback throughout the presentation. With that, let's welcome Christine. We are excited for today's webcast, Create the Culture of Your Dreams, Part 2.
Hi, guys. Thank you so much for being here. And what we're going to talk about today is how to get the level of performance that you want from folks, how to deeply emotionally engage them, and how to have a more fun, more connected, more fulfilling work experience. And as Janet mentioned, please do use the questions tab, and then you also might want to note the attachments tab, which is where we have a link to our previous webinar, Part 1, and then also where we have Smart Tribes Playbook info. And we are going to be kind of repeatedly talking about Smart Tribes Playbook, and also in attachments we have a link to our site. So what we do at Smart Tribes Institute is we take the latest neuroscience research and we actually map it to business, because some of that research actually won't help us move the needle, but a chunk of it will. So we are sort of the translators between what the top neuroscientists on the planet are finding, and then we translate that to how you actually make a difference in the business world with that info. So let's pop in. So last time what we did in Create the Culture of Your Dreams Part 1, what we did was we really determined the need for a cultural assessment. We need to find out, to take our temperature, if you will, of what's working and what's not before we actually dive in and start launching a bunch of programs to create that great culture. So we call that a cultural assessment. We talked briefly about it last time. Last time we also sketched out a draft employee engagement or safety, belonging, mattering survey. And we covered the first two keys of your cultural game plan, growth and appreciation. Today we're going to talk about measurement and engagement. We also talked about the importance of dealing with and working with and connecting with a neuroscience-based coach so you can actually implement this. Please write this down. I want us to keep focusing on this. Information plus implementation equals transformation. Information plus implementation equals transformation. You're going to get a lot of great information today. It's not going to move the needle and give you the transformation you want unless you implement it. So we'll keep talking about implementation-oriented tools and processes to make sure you move the needle. Cool. So as we mentioned, you can visit our channel and you can click on the live and recorded, and Janet gave you all the great info in case you can't seem to get onto the webcast. So let's go. All right, so what we're going to learn today is how the brain works, where engagement happens, okay? We did a quick recap briefly for those who missed us last time, and I'll do kind of a couple of quick slides there. And then we're going to talk about the 4 keys to get high-performing employees. Thank God it's Monday. And then we're going to go over the final 2 elements, and throughout we'll be using templates you can use right away. So as we mentioned last time, thanks to Carnegie Mellon, MIT, Stanford, Harvard, UCLA, Columbia, NYU, and more, we now know that the pathways going from the emotional brain to the intellect are like a 6-lane superhighway going in one direction, whoosh. And yet the pathways going from the intellect to the emotional brain are like a little teeny single-track trail through the forest. So what does this mean? This means humans are deeply motivated emotional beings. Our behavior is driven and dominated by our emotional brain. So we need to use the 10%, the intellect, which we'll be doing today, to engage, enroll, influence the 90%, the emotional brain. So, quick recap of the basics of the brain. You have either 3 brains or 3 parts of the brain, however you'd like to look at it. The reptilian brain governs temperature regulation, breathing, balance. The reptilian brain is all about stimulus response. It's a stimulus response machine coded for safety. If it could speak, it would say, dead or not. There's no concept of quality of life in the reptilian brain. It's all about pure, raw survival. Next, mammalian brain. The mammalian brain is our emotional center. This is where we have the limbic system, fight, flight, freeze, the hippocampus, the amygdala, the insula. This is where we process our experiences. The mammalian brain, if it could speak, it would say friend or foe. Are we going to eat lunch together, or am I going to be lunch? Still a stimulus response machine, still coded for safety, but a little bit more sophisticated than the reptilian brain. Next, neocortex, most evolved in human beings. Many animals, most animals don't have it. Dolphins have it. Other animals that seem to be, quick learners, etc. Sophisticated learners. Our area that we want to focus on today is the prefrontal cortex, right behind your forehead. The prefrontal cortex is where we can assess where we are now, determine where we want to go, and start to create the pathway to get there. This is where we have planning, language skills, tool making. This is where we have decision making, problem solving. This is the part of the brain that makes us human, if you will. If the neocortex, prefrontal cortex could speak, it would say, what can I create? A little more sophisticated than the 2 stimulus response machines. Now, when we are dealing with rapidly changing directives, in unclear communication, chaos in the workplace, rapid growth, company turnaround, we go into what's called the critter state. We call it the critter state because you're just like a little animal. You're running safety programs, saying safe or not, friend or foe, but there's not a lot of real sophisticated stuff happening there. The best part of your brain is cut off. We send people into critter state when we send them into stress or when we experience stress. The smart state, that's where we want to go. When we're in the smart state, that's where we have full access to all 3 brains or all 3 parts of our brain. So if we get a flame email, we say, oh, poor person, they're having a bad day. Whereas in critter state, we get a flame email, we go, battle, or let me get out of here, or let me stand here and kind of quiver. So we want to get our teams in the smart state. The more of our folks that are in the smart state, the more we create what's called a smart tribe. We have as many people as possible in our company working in their smart state. The reason we want a smart tribe is because it's really, really good for business. We see productivity 35 to 50% increased. We see emotional engagement all the way up to 100%, at least 67%, which is huge. We see sales closed up to 50% faster. We harvest 44% more of the pipeline. Revenues and profits up. Marketing demand gen up. So we want to get people in and keep them in their smart state. Step number 1 is we want to use trusted, proven tools. So throughout this webcast, I'll be talking about tools that we recommend, that we use, that you can look at or you can learn more about by clicking on the attachment later. There are 3 areas where we need to have proven, trusted templates: sales and marketing, leadership, and culture and talent. All right. So THP, one of our clients, they're growing very, very rapidly. How do you get hundreds of people and thousands of people shifting their belief system and delegating more effectively and being more emotionally engaged and communicating more effectively and having greater ownership? They use Smart Tribe's playbook. They use some of the playbooks we'll show you today to get that proven process to ensure that we get the results we want. Here we go. Step number 2, you're going to have your cultural game plan. Last time we talked about growth, individual development plans, leadership lunches, annual learning, making sure everybody in our company is learning, and then second, appreciation, high fives, rock star, weekly wins. Today we're going to talk about measurement, accountability structures, feedback, which is huge, reviews, which is huge, and then some emotional engagement. So let's dive in. M is for measurement. We want to get and keep momentum because we know, please jot this down, we know that the brain must have this following experience in life and at work. The brain must have the experience of aspiration. Here's where I'm going. It's a cool, glorious future. I see how I'm going to get there. Yay. So on the bad days, it's not all depressing, it's here we go. We also need to have insights. The brain needs to have insights. We need to see how to solve our problems. We need to be able to focus on all the good stuff. But here's the challenge that comes up. As we're building a great company, as we're growing our company, as we're expanding to the next level of growth, we often don't know what everybody's doing, and we often have communication drops and accountability drops. We recommend having a very clear weekly status, whatever format works for you. It keeps the brain in the smart state. We don't need to focus on 15 corporate initiatives. We focus on 3 to 5. 6 maybe, okay? So if we look at the needle movers for this individual, this is a person in sales, the needle movers, the things that they want to cover, this is chapter 5 from Smart Tribes. The most important thing they're tracking is monthly revenue, monthly gross margin, and rep quotas, sales process, training dates, etc. Their key performance indicators for the year are revenue, gross margin, and percentage of revenue from the channel. So every week we understand what they did the previous week, what they didn't do and why. This helps us understand if they're focusing on too many low-value activities, and then, of course, what they're going to do the coming week. And then we track how we're doing for the month and how we're doing for the year. If you don't have a weekly status format, you're going to have challenges. But what happens when somebody drops accountability? There are 3 types of feedback that we give that work great. Please think carefully about these. The first one, we want to make sure that we give people frequent feedback. That way when they have whatever review they have, which we'll talk about in a second, they won't be surprised. And it won't be this big, gruesome, scary experience that sends everybody into critter state. So first, what we call the feedback frame. Feedback that doesn't frighten or send people into critter. So what we want to do here is we say what worked was, or what I liked was, blank, and what I'd like to see more of is blank. When we say what worked or what's working is, the recipient of that message loads up, great, now I get it. I see what they like. Good, good. And what I'd like to see more of is blank. Good. Now we're loading up what we want to see more of. So we're taking the stuff that's working, good. We're opening up the frontal lobes. We're becoming more receptive. What's working is such and such, and what you want to see more of is such and such over there. I get it. Often we are trained in leadership circles to actually say, you're awesome, but this stuff isn't working. But you're awesome. And it doesn't work so well for the brain because they leave on the you're awesome note. We're not telling them they're not awesome. We're simply saying, here's what's working, and here's what I'd like to see more of. If we do this informally on an ongoing basis, much better communication, much higher levels of trust. Next, the 4 conversations. What happens if somebody drops their accountability? What happens if they drop their accountability and we need to start the dialogue about, hey, whoa, you made a promise and you broke it, and that's going to start damaging trust. So the first thing we ask is, are you okay? Because they might not be. Something might have happened in their personal life. Are you okay? No, I'm not. Wow, all right, let's rejigger your workload. Are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. Well, remember we have this, one of our core values is accountability, and we had this agreement. So let's sit down and look at time management. Let's sit down and look at setting aside this amount of time to do the work, and then setting aside this time, if you will, to send the work in. I got it. If it happens again, is there too much on your plate? Because we as their leader might be heaping work on somebody's plate. I do that all the time, and my team has to go, whoa, whoa, I've got conflicting deadlines. So is there too much on your plate? If still we have accountability breaks or drops, is this role not quite the right fit? Did this role now become 3 roles since we've had so much growth in the company, or do we need to actually shift your experience here? And then last, if it still keeps happening, do you really want to work here? Because your behavior is showing me that you don't. The third thing that we do, look back at the slide, is this role not quite the right fit for you? That's where we go into what we call the counseling process. The counseling process is a very respectful process that we follow that's all about just saying, this is what's not working, this is what we need to see more of. And so let's figure out together, let's co-create a plan to change that. Now, often though, counseling periods don't work because we don't do the following things up front. We don't say, okay, what's the realistic turnaround period? Is it 30 days, 60 days, 90 days? So that's the prerequisite. What's the turnaround period? Next, what behaviors specifically need to be changed? What level of support are you willing to provide for that behavior change? Are you going to check in every Friday for 15 minutes? What are you going to do? What's the structure? And then last, we want to make sure that we know what the consequences are, because we have to be fair. We have to say to the person, hey, if this doesn't turn around, we're going to need to separate from the company. Or if this doesn't turn around, we're going to need to move you into a different role. So we have to be really clear. This is a respectful, co-creative process. This is the we're in it together process. So this is in Smart Tribe's playbook. You guys can learn about it more by going to the attachments folder or the attachments tab. But I want you to start thinking about what's the process that we follow to help somebody turn around? And how do we do it in a co-creative, super respectful way? Performance reviews. We're going to get to questions. As soon as Janet wants a question break, she'll pop on and let me know. Now, a lot of our clients are letting go of annual performance reviews. And what they're doing instead is twice a year or 4 times a year, light reviews, because frankly, they're using the feedback frame, and people know what's working, and people know what they want to see more of. I also like the feedback frame to be bidirectional. I want my team to say, hey, Christine, here's what's working, and here's what I need to see more of. One of our team members just did that with me the other day. It's bidirectional. We're collaborative. We're in this together. There's no one who's superior. So we like to have the person self-evaluate first. It's super helpful when the person self-evaluates, because that way all the burden isn't on the leader, but also back to the co-creating vibe. We have this kind of collaboration that we're in this together. It's a collaborative spirit. Our theme is growth. It's all about growth. It's all about helping our people be as awesome as we know they can be. So we look at needle mover achievement. It's very specific. It's not objective, it's very clear, okay? And then we have the bonus or salary or additional perks. Because you're doing such a great job, you can work from home on Friday or whatever. Question. Do we have questions, Janet, that we should
Oh, sorry. Yes. Actually, there's one person is wondering what the difference between performance reviews and the IDP is that we talked about last time.
Thank you so much. Excellent question. Okay, the individual development plan that we talked about last time, that is the plan to help a person grow and stretch, and there are 2 sections in that. Here are the professional skills that we would like for you to gain, the leadership skills, the job skills, in order to evolve to this next potential role. The IDP is about, here's your glorious future. It taps on aspiration and it taps on insights. So in the individual development plan, we're saying, here's what could be a future path for you at our company. Here's what you will need to do to, earn the possibility to be considered for that future path. The individual development plan is driven by the individual. It's not the leader's job to drive the IDPs for their people. They help create them. But that person has to be hungry and want to grow. When we do the performance reviews, we do check in on IDP status. Hey, so how are you doing? What leadership skills have you gained? You know, I've been seeing that you've been more accountable. I've been seeing that you've been leading more initiatives. That's fantastic. Look, you know, we're tracking to your IDP. So it's an individual development plan, and we're tracking on the growth of the person through the IDP, and we're tracking on the day-to-day performance through the performance review. Thank you. Great.
Mm-hmm.
Good, good.
Yeah, and also just like to add on that one that the individual development plan is really about that person's future, and it may be, you know, that that person wants to get out of the role that they're in into something that they either aspire to or that's a better fit. And so the IDP is really about developing themselves for the future, whereas the performance review, quite simply, is it's a review. You know, these were your targets. How'd you do?
Good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Good. Good.
And then we have another question here, Christine, about 360s. Somebody who wants to know what the relationship with what we're talking about is with the 360s, and you know, what are our thoughts on that?
Good, good, good. Thank you so much, guys. Okay, so the 360 is, just like it sounds, kind of, you know, a 360 view of what other people's experience is of working with a given leader. When we do our 360s, I think, Janet, we assess on like 88 things. But yeah, we check in on a bunch of different things so that the leader does self-assess, but we have direct reports, we have peers, we have their leader or supervisor also weigh in. So we get a snapshot of what's the experience of working with this person. And we get a nice diverse snapshot. So we can help that person see where their blind spots are, where their hidden strengths are, and then we get a much better, this contributes beautifully really to their IDP, and this also contributes to what needs to be covered in coaching. Because when you do a 360, you have to have a follow-up plan, guys. Please, please, please. Don't just do 360s and, you know, expect the person to magically grow. You have to attach it to a training plan, to executive coaching, to leadership coaching. You have to attach it to something. Otherwise, it can be really demoralizing. We're assessing, we're finding out where a person could grow, and we're not helping them do that. And then you want to do that IDP, that 360 again. So the 360 is other people's experience of you, which feeds the IDP. And then, as Janet mentioned so eloquently, the review is looking in the rearview mirror saying, how did we do on these very specific objectives, you know, these very specific targets? So they all work together. Many companies don't do 360s throughout all levels of the org chart. And we like for them to at least do like our leadership assessment, you know, something light, because you do want people to at least look at where they want to grow. So that's kind of the relationship between the 360. Yeah, anything you want to add?
Yeah, well, the other piece is that even if there isn't an official 360, you can still encourage people to ask for feedback. So one of the things that's really coming out in the research that's being done today is the relationship between asking for feedback and developing leadership potential. So the studies are showing that the people who actually ask for feedback tend to be seen as the best and the most highly effective leaders. So
awesome.
the 360 will force people to really look at themselves and to ask for feedback. And throughout the company, you can use that leadership effectiveness thing, and you can encourage people in the performance reviews, in the IDP, to ask for feedback from their peers, from their managers.
Awesome, awesome. And if all you do is start with the feedback frame, hey, what's working? What would you like to see more of? You know, that's a great way to quickly ask for feedback, to start making it not uncomfortable, if you will. The slide I just showed you a sec was 3 different templates for feedback and for creating an IDP, an individual development plan, and then also for doing reviews that are tight, that are efficient, that are collaborative, that are super respectful. And when I say tight, I mean short and sweet, because we don't want reviews to be this big, huge thing that most companies feel they are, which is this gruesome, painful process that takes forever. So just a word from a San Francisco-based company, Forward. They use Smart Tribe's playbook to really help enroll, engage, align, and they use all those proven templates. We've shown you a few to just get more done in less time, to get everybody speaking the same language so they can collectively raise the bar. You know, it takes a while to get everybody singing from the same song sheet, if you will. So Janet, you're just pop in and let me know if there's other questions you want me to pop in now, and I'm just going to zip to the next topic unless you have something that's.
I have one quick question, which is somebody who wants to know how do you create a culture of engagement and inclusiveness when you're working in multiple locations and you have language barriers?
Oh, great. Okay. So a bunch of different locations, cultural barriers or let's just say cultural differences, language differences. Great question. Great. Okay. So here's the thing. This comes down to mission, vision, values. Thank you so much for queuing up our next section. So we're going to talk about engagement right now, which is perfect, and mission, vision, values. So perfect question to cue up where we're going. So what we do is we need to help everybody understand what it means to be part of our tribe. Mission, vision, values often are done really ineffectively, and Janet and I kind of have a bone to pick about this one. So mission, vision, values can be so incredibly powerful and enrolling and engaging, and they help us forge a tribal identity. They help us know who we need to be, how we need to behave to be part of the tribe. Remember back to safety, belonging, mattering. We all need to know, how do I fit in? How do I stay with this and be part of this amazing tribe? So when we're dealing with different cultures, when we're dealing with different languages, we need to have a shared belief system. So the mission is who we are, why we get up in the morning. You know, we believe that every culture, every company can have a culture rich in safety, belonging, mattering, and every leader can have the tools and have the courage and the possibility to step into creating that and holding that for their people. So everybody can rise up and perform at the levels that they truly can and shine as brightly as they can. You know, vision, where we're going together, why it matters, you know. We're on a mission, and we've got a vision to support the creation of 1 million smart tribes by 2020. Okay, that's like a big thing. We don't need to create them all ourselves. We want to support them. You know, we've got several hundred people on this webinar. You know, this is helping us create smart tribes, which is deeply satisfying for us. Values, this is where we get a little tricky, okay? So the mission is what we believe. The vision is where we're going together. The values is who we are. But the values often aren't clear, okay? So here's some examples of values that work. And notice that for each value or values group, we have bullets to explain that. Because what happens with values is we'll say our values are, you know, integrity and communication and, you know, learning or whatever, but we don't tell people what that actually means. And people have different definitions of different words. So here's an example from one of our clients. Our relationships are founded in trust and respect, okay? Trust and respect. How do we live that? We assume positive intent. We give each other the benefit of the doubt. Great. We don't hold on to perceived injustices. Got it. We celebrate our differences. Got it. We're respectful of the different geographical locations and each other's times. Okay, got it. We focus on the issue, not the blame. That's how I model and live the value of trust and respect. Let's look at another one. We promote open and healthy dialogue. Open and healthy dialogue. That's our value, up, down, across the team. We encourage an environment where everyone's views are heard. We proactively, just like Janet was saying, seek feedback from others. We provide accurate and timely feedback, and we do it in a respectful manner. Good. Now I'm starting to understand how I can be a good member of this tribe, if you will, what it's going to mean to fit in. Okay? I need to trust and respect. I need to have open and healthy dialogue. Got it. When we do that, people then feel more emotionally engaged. Another example, we foster an environment of teamwork and collaboration. We engage each other. We do not work in silos. So if we're having a silo situation, we can go, hey, wait a second, guys. Let's come back to our value of teamwork and collaboration. Remember, this is who we are as a tribe. So we need to have those values that people can understand, and then we need to recruit for those values, and we need to ask self-revealing questions. Because recruiting is so tricky because often that's the person's rock star moment. And so then they start at the company, you're like, hey, this is not the rock star that I thought I hired. But you didn't ask those self-revealing questions. Please do the following. Look at the questions on the screen. We have a bunch more in Smart Tribe's playbook. But a lot of our clients get very, very, very fantastic results in following the simple recruiting process I'm going to outline for you. And it's much deeper, and all the details are in Smart Tribe's playbook. But when somebody applies for our company, before we spend a ton of time, we first say, hey, we do our first level of interviewing digitally. Could you please answer these 5 questions? You can't send them more than 5. It's kind of asking too much. So, for example, which of our company values are most aligned with your personal values? Why? Please let us know some times in your career when you most powerfully embodied our values. You know, what are 5 career accomplishments you're most proud of? Why? What are 5 adjectives? These are self-revealing questions, because now we can start to find out if somebody actually lives our values, because our values have to be aligned with who they are, or it's not going to work. So we want deeper connections. We want more trust. You know, when we have a proven playbook, which we've captured in Smart Tribe's playbook, we can have that recipe, if you will, that blow by blow. Here's exactly how to increase engagement, alignment, and results. And then we can take our people to the next level. But if all you do is start on mission, vision, values, you'll start to get those folks speaking different languages, coming together, and in different locations coming together. And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to start to make sure that we celebrate people, you know. And last time we went over some really great kind of celebration-oriented, how to help people feel appreciated, how to celebrate those values so people understand what it is to be a great member of the tribe, and everybody gets to feel acknowledged and appreciated. So the bottom line is, this is the Pain and the Pleasure Networks were discovered by Naomi Eisenberger and Matt Lieberman at UCLA. And when they showed me these, I thought that was super neat, because this totally correlates to our smart state and critter state. Check this out. The pain network caused by physical pains, social exclusion, bereavement. We do grieve when somebody leaves our company or when we have to discontinue a product, being treated unfairly, negative social comparison. Oh, yeah. The finance people, they're always like that. Oh, she's just like a finance person. Okay, no, we don't do that. Look at the parts of the brain that are lit up. This is critter state. There's nothing in the purple. The dark purple, that's the good old neocortex, prefrontal cortex. The reward network. We've got 3 parts of the brain lit up. Fantastic. We'll do some questions in a second. The reward network, physical pleasures. Having cupcakes at work, that's my favorite. Having a good reputation. Think about the last webinar that we did. We help somebody have a good reputation by celebrating, acknowledging, appreciating specific values that they model, specific company values that they model, how specifically they modeled that value, and we do it publicly. That's called giving status. Very popular for human beings, okay? And then being treated fairly. We want to make sure that we have everybody's held to the same measurement, and I touched on one measurement technique today. Everybody's held to the same standard. Everybody's held to the same measurement. Cooperating, collaborating, people feeling like we're in this together. Okay, giving to charity, a great team-building activity to do is to get together and to do nonprofit activities together. So let's look at our takeaways, and then Janet will give us a couple more questions. Growth. Focusing on helping people aspire, individual development plans, leadership lunches, where we get people together in groups of 6. They talk about leadership topics. They have a code of confidentiality. We're focused on growing as leaders. We start getting it throughout the culture. We start self-identifying as we're all leaders here. Annual learning. 24 hours for everybody in the company, 2 weeks leadership learning for those who are in leadership roles every year. Appreciation, what we covered last time. High fives, acknowledging, appreciating people, celebrating the weekly wins, ending the week saying, here's all the great stuff that happened this week, toasting everybody. Measurement, accountability structures. I showed you an example of weekly status. I gave you some tools for giving feedback. I showed you some of the things that our clients do with performance reviews. Engagement, really getting those mission, vision, values to be emotional and powerful. And here's the thing. When you kind of offer somebody, here are our values, this is why we have to recruit so carefully, and this is why when we give feedback, we have to recruit people who are members of our tribe from the get-go, because they can't just get in line with your values. They either are emotionally engaged to those values from the get-go or they're not. Second, as we do reviews, if someone is sliding on particular values, we have to talk about it. When we give feedback, we have to say, hey, what happened? You were super accountable. What happened? What shifted? Where can I help you and support you in getting back on the bus, if you will? Okay? So when we do this, we want to make sure that we're using proven templates. And you can see them at smarttribesinstitute.com/STP. It can be all caps. It can be lowercase. What do we have? What do we have, Janet?
Okay, great. We've got somebody who wants to know, must the CEO set the aspirational tone of the culture, or can we lead from the middle? Can we pull the CEO into creating a more engaged culture?
Okay, great, great. So 2 things. Everybody, please start rating. We'd appreciate if you click on the ratings button and rate how you're experiencing this webinar so far. Here's the thing. We've seen lots of things happen. We've seen engaging. If we can't get the CEO quite engaged yet, ideally, you want this to come from the top and the bottom and the middle. But if it's not working and the CEO isn't working yet, here's what you can do. You can do the grassroots level. When you do grassroots and you have a particular department or division or team that is really focused on creating emotional engagement, here's what's going to happen. You know what I'm going to say. They're going to start performing better and better and better. And as they start performing better and better and better, leadership is going to start to notice. And they're going to say, whoa, what the heck's happening over there? That department or division, they're doing something that's working. The people are happy. The retention is higher. The turnover is lower. Everybody wants to transfer over to that department. And the performance is awesome. That's a great way to kind of sneak in the back door, if you will, if the executive suite doesn't see this as a priority, because the executive suite definitely speaks the language of performance. Yes. Thank you. Great question.
So I have a bunch of questions, and I'm just going to combine them a little bit. And the main question is really, what is the Smart Tribes playbook, and how does that work? Because we keep referring to it, and there's a couple of people that don't really know what it is.
Yeah, okay. You know what? Let me just go back. Woo! Sorry, you guys. That's kind of a little blur. Let me just go back and show you so we can speak and we can have a visual. Let's have a visual. Okay, good. So here's what Smart Tribes Playbook is. What it is it's 3 different categories, right? There's the sales and marketing, there's the leadership, because these are different playbooks that you need. Well, they're all under one bundle, or you can just get them separately. And then there's culture and talent. So let's look, for example. So let's say that we want to really focus on assessing people's performance. So we go over the culture and talent. We look at the second one down, assess your team's performance, ultimate recruiting kit, managing your energy. We pick what the top priority is in each of these categories. What a lot of our clients do is they get the playbook, and then they actually look at these categories, if you will, or the resources in each one, and they rank them. What matters most right now for sales and marketing, let's just say, is that somebody really needs to make sure that their compensation is working. So halfway down, they see, okay, what are a bunch of other high-performing teams doing for sales compensation? Great. There's a simple plan right there. I can look at that. Okay. How are people tracking their marketing effectiveness? Oh, look, sample marketing metrics and deliverables. This is an aggregate of how our top-performing clients do this. And so these are standard, proven processes from our 30 years of helping companies build high-performance teams, and it's just the stuff that works. Some of our stuff that's super powerful and popular, leadership playbook, effective delegation. Everybody loves the effective delegation. That works great. So we like to look at effective meetings, effective delegation. We look at what does the client need, what does the company need, or you just say, what are the top 3 things that are slowing me down? If I could get better delegation, if I could get more effective recruiting, if we could measure our marketing more effectively, wow, that would really move the needle for this year. And then you go into the playbook, and frankly, you use the little templates that are going to move the needle for you. And if you're working with one of our coaches, they're helping you through the playbook to make sure that you implement, and you all know what I'm going to say next, enroll and engage people in using these tools. We need to enroll and engage people in embracing these tools. I showed you a slide from THP a while ago. What THP did, they're a huge beverage company in Vietnam. They're larger than Coke and Pepsi put together in the Vietnam, Thailand, etc. region. Enormous company. They wanted to really get their delegation working great because they were having what many of us have, which is bounce back delegation. You delegate it, oh, and it bounces back to you. Darn it, now I have to do it. I thought I gave it to Joe Blow to do. So what they do is they took the effective delegation process, they made a couple of edits to make it work a little bit better and to add a few more steps for their culture. They rolled it out to a group of about 20 people. That was their beta group, if you will, their test group. Alpha group even. Those guys made a couple tweaks to it. They rolled it out. Now they've got thousands of people using this, and guess what? Performance is dramatically improved. The morale is dramatically improved because bounce-back delegation isn't happening anymore. The effective delegation process is a step-by-step neuro-based process that helps people actually get their hands around giving effective delegation so that the recipient of the delegation can actually deliver. So that's what these are. They're templates that you use. You saw some in the slides. Some of them are Word docs.
And Christine, can you explain, because somebody wanted to know if they're included and covered in the Smart Tribes book, but they're actually different. So maybe you could explain that a little bit.
Yeah, thank you, Janet. Yeah, so Smart Tribes, the book, Smart Tribes, talks about a bunch of case studies, talks about the tools overall, but the actual implementation tools in Smart Tribes Playbook, no, we just created this about a year ago or so. So no, this is the blow-by-blow. Remember how I said information plus implementation equals transformation? This is stuff that you actually can implement. This is the stuff that you read Smart Tribes, you go, wow, yeah, I want a Smart Tribe. Wow, I need to change this in our company. Got it. Then you get Smart Tribes Playbook and you actually start to roll it out. You roll out these programs. These are programs that support you in implementation.
Yeah, and these are things that we culled from best practices over many clients as well as research. So they really do work.
Great.
And Christine, so the next question that we have here is, I hear you guys do cultural assessments. What is a cultural assessment and why is it important?
Got it. Okay, yeah, a cultural assessment is important. And let me go to that last slide then, and thanks guys for letting us zoom all the way down. Whoops. Well, I'm trying to get to the last slide. So a cultural assessment is basically it's a process of interviewing to find out, and we interview a very small cross-section. We look at the org chart. We get a cross-section of role, tenure, age, expertise, and we can interview, no matter how big the company is, roughly 25 to 30 people. If it's a smaller company, we do fewer. And that gives us a temperature of the info on what is and isn't working in the company. We then create, so it's a really intensive day, and neuro-based interviews. They're short interviews, but we use eye accesses and all sorts of cool neuro techniques to find out what's really happening at the company. And then we send out a plan. We give the CEO a plan saying, here's exactly how to get your Smart Tribe. Here's exactly what you need. This training from Smart Tribes Institute, this coaching, blah, blah, blah. These 3 people, you don't need to do anything to them. They're rocking. These 5 people, they've got amazing potential. We better cultivate them or they're probably going to quit soon, and that would really be not good. So we map out how to move through that process and create their Smart Tribe, and then we tell them how long it's going to take. and we've been doing this for so long that we have usually a 90-day window. We usually will say it's going to take whatever, 2.5 to 2 3/4 years, or it's going to take 1 year to 1 1/4 years. But if they follow this plan, we have tremendous accuracy on how long it's going to take to create it.
Great.
Good.
Do we have time for one more question, or should we wrap up?
Yeah. We have time for one more question. Sorry, you guys, I'm kind of a spaz in trying to get to the last slide. So I'm trying to get to that last slide to say bye.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So while you do that, I'll give you.
Get there. Yeah.
Yeah. What tools or methods do you suggest at a quick, high level to aid an organization going to the $50 million inflection point from the $50 million inflection point to the $100 million? Specifically, how to unify and implement strategy top-down and bottom-up.
Okay. So when you're going from 50 million to 100 million, I know that you know this, but if you look at Chapter 1 of Smart Tribes, that's where we have our revenue inflection point chart, which everybody loves because it's so specific. There are 3 things that you really need to do. There's the people stuff, which you'll see in the book is in purple. There's the money stuff, which is in green, and then there's the model, like the business model stuff, which is in blue. When you're going from 50 to 100, it's really important to look at cultural assessment, execution assessment. Usually our execution, our follow-through, has challenges when the company grows from 50 to 100. This is where we also start to see kind of corporate governance. We see the leadership. Are we doing enough to actually cultivate the next generation of leaders? Are the IDPs in place? Have they been working? So the way that we enroll and engage people is we need to get more and more and more tribal leaders. So we love to do a cultural assessment, find out what's not working, and then we create 30, 60, or 90-day sprints. Okay? Ooh, we're going to end in a minute. We create 30, 60, or 90-day sprints, and in these sprint sessions, if you will, these different teams of 3 to 5 people have a specific directive that they are going to implement in the culture. It's a great way to combine senior people with high potential younger people, with emerging leaders. You get these beautiful cross-functional teams doing these particular sprints, and that's how you then kind of roll out cultural initiatives in a company and really pull that unification together, especially as you're navigating from 50 to 100, 25 to 50. Whenever you're going through any of our revenue inflection points, you need to expand the experience of safety, belonging, mattering, and expand the experience of tribe. All right. Great. I know we need to scooch. So let's take a moment and thank everybody. And thank you, Janet, and thank you, Alexis behind the scenes and Max behind the scenes. Here's the thing. What we found, and tell us your experience or ponder this yourself, but it seems that maybe the meaning of life is actually the people that you meet and what you create together. And if the meaning of life, if like the whole reason we're here is to help the people that we meet really shine, really step into who they can truly be, that's what we want to get. And so that's why we're here today, and that's why we've been using these tools. So information plus implementation equals transformation. Thank you so much for your commitment to leadership and for being here today. And go forth, do great things, reach out to us if you need any help. Thank you so much, guys.